Now, so I'm going to start today tell you about WebAPI. So what is WebAPI actually? WebAPI, we are discussing about the web development today. Okay, so WebAPI is basically a API which works between front end and back end components of the web. Okay, so what is website actually? Website, whatever we are seeing and running inside the browser and over the mobile applications are actually websites. Okay, so which are being consumed. So their data is being consumed through the WebAPI and microservices. Okay, so there are basically three parts of the any websites which are being like hosted on the browsers and being consumed through the like mobile applications and web applications or any desktop applications. So basically any website having three different parts. Okay, so the first part is backend, frontend, and databases. Okay, so what is the backend, frontend, and databases? How we are consuming and developing a web API or web applications using these three components. Okay, so here you can see like database is connected to the backend and backend is connected to the front end. So what happens here, like any users or any browser, any web application, or any type of access provider, like we can consume these APIs through the like browser, mobile applications, and tablets, and all other components. Okay, so like when we are putting any URL through the browser. Okay, so like if I am something, I can show you if I. Okay, so like you can see this URL over below. Okay, so like if we are hitting google.com. Okay, so google.com is actually this front end is called, this UI is called a front end. Okay, so every users and end users actually hit the URL or any API which provide him the UI interface, which is actually called front end. Okay, and that front end is respectively connected to the backend, and backend is basically used for driving the databases. Okay, so like in three tier architecture, we can better understand the like working of the websites or web applications. Okay, so front end you can see here, front end is being developed through the HTML, JavaScript, CSS, Angular, and other front end technologies. Okay, which is further connected to the backend part. Okay, so backend could be anything like .NET, Java, PHP, Ruby. Okay, any backend technology which is actually responsible for communicating to the databases or backend services. Okay, and backend is same way connected to the databases. So database can also be developed in different languages. We have Oracle, MS SQL, and Teradata. Okay, so like here you can see I put here two-way communication. Like from front end we are hitting or clicking on some buttons or providing some inputs. Okay, so based upon that inputs, call gets redirected to the or sent to the backend understand that request and accordingly provide the response. Sometimes backend is required to have some database communication. Sometimes backend may have some logics only, so after calculation of that particular part, backend can provide the response. Okay, but sometimes how the call and request get sent, like front-end call to the backend and backend call to the databases, and databases accordingly operate with the data and provide the response to the backend, and then backend provide the response to the front end. Okay, but meantime we also have some database services which are directly consuming to the front end side. So that is the improvement is happening, but at the current time, like we are consuming web application in three way only. Okay, so so like here you can see web development is the building and maintaining of a website and web application. Okay, it works that happens behind the screen to make a website look great, work fast, and perform well with the seamless user experience. Okay, so basically creating a good user experience and great UI performance. So for that, a front-end developer is responsible. But when any operation is happening, any calculation or any, we can say, um, means call is connecting to the backend. So on that case, like we will require to have some improvement in backend part also. But most of the cases, like in the development part, we trying to understand the user request and their responses and handle their responses in the UI part only. So most of the performance for the website is depends on the, like how the front end is developed for that particular website. Okay. So like for any web app development, we have a three different parts we understood, like front end, back end, and databases. Okay, so move to the next part. So front end. So like the front end web development, front end is also known as the client side development. Okay, which is actually being produced through the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, like I saw you earlier, like we have a HTML, JavaScript, Angular, JS, React.js, and all other frameworks for the front-end development. So basically, we can develop our application based on the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. But these frameworks are developed in a more robust way. Means they provide the um, development for the HTML tags and HTML controls in just a very simple tags. Okay, so on that case it makes development more easy and seamless for developing this particular UI part. Okay, like here in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for website or web application, so that user can see and interact with them directly. Okay, so this way it works. Like user hits the like he is putting some data in Google form. Okay, so when he is hitting the enter, like submitting the form, that data sent to the backend, and that backend send that data to the databases. So this request and response way happening through this uh, sequence. Okay, so like user is sending a request is communicating with the backend, and backend is communicating with the databases, analyzing some data, like if we put sending him a like user details. So after the creating the user, like the response is coming as a user ID. Okay, so after calculating saving the data into the database is sending a unique user ID as a response to the user. Like the way is given here properly, like a site is loaded in a browser from the server. Okay, then client side script run in the browser and process the request to the server. You can see here like server responses, backend server process. So this will actually happenings when any website loads into the browser. Okay, so like backend development refers to the server side. Okay, server side development. Okay, so like if anyone say tell you like we are working on the client part, like client development. So client development is basically a front end development, and server side development is basically a backend development. Okay, so inside the backend developments, like making updates, changing in addition on a monitoring functionality. Okay, prime, we will understand all these things in just a small application through. Okay, but for the meantime, just for the understanding, like, so I think you hope understood like what is front end and back end. Code written by backend developers is what communicate the database information to the browser. Okay, so basically backend drives to the database, pick up some information, and that information sent to the front end side. Okay, so database, what is database? So database is actually structured form of data. Okay, it's actually a raw data. So we have a, like in IT industry, we have a three different database and development groups which works separately for handling these three different components. Okay, so like you have seen, we may have some Angular developer, a React.js developer, we may have some .NET developers, MVC developers. Okay, and we also have some big data developers, Oracle DB, SQL developer. So all three are working separately in a big organization. Okay, but in not very much big projects, if we're working on some medium size of projects, so one single full stack developer can handle these all activities okay, by himself. Like a single developer is someone who is knowing full way of the communication of the web development. Okay, he is knowing all the software life cycles, like how the software is being developed and being communicated to the backend side, and further being communicated to the databases, how the security is being handled, and how the caching memories management is happening, how the deployment is happening, like all the ways is well versed and really knowing about the applications. Okay, like database application development is the process of obtaining real world requirements, analyzing the requirements, designing the data and functions of the system, and then implementing operation in the systems. Okay, so we can take the example here, like we are saving some data, we are getting some data from the Google Forms. Like I hope you already have seen the Google Forms, like for the various activities we are like fulfilling the forms and submitting those forms to the like any different websites. So what happening, like we are putting some name, address, mobile number, email IDs, so that we, data sends to the backend and then further sends to the database side. Okay, so like analyzing the requirement, like if we are sending any data, so we are verifying the data whether this unique mobile number is already present in database or not. If the database, if this mobile number is already present in the database and we are saving the unique mobile numbers for that particular users, so on that case we like database can send the like information like this number is already present in the database, like this provider different mobile number, it's been already registered with us. Like you can already I think seen this kind of information, so that comes from the database side. Okay, and UI side, like we can see like sometimes when we putting the email ID and we are not sending the, like writing the email ID in proper structure to saying like email ID is not like we can take example like email ID and password creation. Sometimes like if we are not putting the some appropriate keywords, so it is giving some errors like this special character is missing or this is not appropriate as per the standard. Okay, so that we can verify from the client side. Okay, and like I already shown, like if we need to verify the user, so that we did from the backend side, like from the database side. Okay, for the full stack, like I already told you, like full stack developer is the developer who is knowing all the full-fledged development of the web development or application development or software development life cycles. Okay, he's well versed about all the activities, like how to handle the errors, how the caching is will be working. Like if he's saying like for the deployment purpose. Okay, so we don't need to like, oh, we can deploy it like in directly in IS. No, if we are a full stack developer, we are saying like we are well versed with this particular technology, so we will need to identify the more efficient way of doing the particular task. Okay, so that is actually important. If we are taking up any type of like we have some requirements for developing applications, so we need to identify what we need to use for developing this service. Like we can use WCF, WebAPI, microservice. So what could be the most appropriate for developing this particular service? So on that case, if he is a full developer, he has to be like he has to find the way to develop a most efficient application for that. Okay, he cannot say that blindly, no, we need to develop a service. Okay, we will create a web API. No, if he is going to create a web API, he has to justify why he is not picking up microservices or why he is not picking up WCF services. Okay, why he is going through the web APIs. Okay, so that things matters. So whenever any new applications come, any new development comes, so on that case it means the developer needs to, so we mostly these things can be taken care by technical architects. They are actually, responsible for giving the most efficient approach for developing the application. Okay, so I told you like what is database, what is full stack development. So now what is web API, microservices and APIs. So web API is like earlier we have some SOAP based API like WCF. Okay, so the WCF services are basically responsible for developing the services. So those services are like robust and used through the multiple like protocols. Okay, like HTTP protocols, SOAP, and other protocols. We can use that. But nowadays, at this time, like we are going to more familiar with the internet part. Okay, so internet is basically consuming the HTTPS services. Okay, so whatever the we are service is calling from the browser, from the mobile, from the desktop, from the like internet. So those services are basically are the HTTP services. Okay, like you already have seen, like whenever we calling, you can see here. So whenever we calling any API, like you can see every time we see the here HTTPS. Okay, like this way, https.lxsoft.com. Okay, so https means this is the http type of service. HTTP type protocol is being used here for this API development, this web development. Okay, so web API is basically a framework for building the HTTP services that can be accessed through any client, including browser, mobile devices. It is an ideal platform of building RESTful applications in a .NET. Okay. Microservices. So microservices are also a smaller part of web API. We can say, like in a web API, we have a multiple modules, multiple um, parts to develop. Like we have finance module, user module. So on that case, like we go for the web API, but we have a module things like we have some separated components. On that case, we go for the microservices. Okay, so basically microservices are independent, executable, and deployable component. Okay, like we have a finance related activities or operations, so we can develop those operations in microservices. Okay, so what happens in this case, like if we are developing anything in, like we have a, four different like we can take example, four different like an API have okay, so like we have four things, like one is finance. Okay, finance detail, second is user detail, and fourth is like we can say organization, or we can say payment details. Oh, payment detail. Okay, so we have a three different component here. Okay, so if we wanted to develop a web API, so we can consider these three different components in a single web API. Like we can create a single web API for these all three. Okay, but in case of microservice, like the advantage of microservice, we can create a single component for three three different things. Okay, so like here we will have a finance API, we will have a user API, we will have a payment API. So we have a three different microservices for that, but we have a single API for managing all these things. So like the same way, like we have a multiple controllers we can create in the, like when we will go into the like code part, so definitely we will be understanding better. But at this time, like I'm saying, so when we are using a web API, so like we are consuming all these things, all the components and all the modules in a single part. Oh, okay, consuming as a single API. But in the microservice, as a name suggests, you can see micro. So all the chunks, all the modules have been divided separately. Okay, so what happens in this case, like if we are making any changes in finance module, it will not impact the user module, because finance module is running separately and user module service is running separately. Okay, so that is the advantage of microservices, like independent, deployable, executable, so that is not impacting to the other components. Okay, and also it's providing efficient performance as compared to the web API, because one microservice is containing a single controller, so and it basically handles only a single responsibility. So it provides sub data and fastest and efficient performance for that particular operation. Okay, we will understand through the codes once we will be going through the microservices. Okay, So API is application programming interface. Okay, so which is actually software, like we can say like API could be like web API and microservices and web services. So API is basically providing the communication between the front end and back end. So it works as a mediator between front and back end. Like you can see here example, like if we are I use, okay, like we have a computer, we have a mobile, we have a tablets or any other components like Postman, Saga, so on, that we can hit the, okay, APIs. So like we are hitting the API, sending the request to the browser through the APIs, okay, and it's communicating with the backend side and databases, analyzing some response and sending that response to the respective clients. So this is the main functioning of the APIs. Okay, so I hope you understood properly the APIs, microservices, and APIs, which are actually currently where I'm just telling about the basic details. After this, definitely we will be going through the some depth part, but currently this is the some high level introduction about the microservices and web APIs. Okay, hope you understood. If you have any questions, so let me know in the comment section. We will definitely help you. Okay, thank you so much. I will be attaching this screenshots and details to my websites and let you know the uh, URL for that, so you guys will be able to find the this data. Okay, thank you so much for your